I was all the way checked out. I needed to check this box to look like I had done my Christian duty, to say that I met with a marriage counselor, that I had done everything, so then I could feel okay about walking away.
Welcome to the Grace Marriage Podcast. I'm Brad Rhoads.
And I'm Marilyn Rhoads. We're here to help you build a marriage that's stronger, more connected, and full of grace.
I'm Rick Dayton, joining Brad and Marilyn as we bring you weekly conversations designed to inspire and equip you to live intentionally in your marriage.
We'll share practical tips, powerful stories, and strategies to help you and your spouse grow closer and thrive together.
So whether you're just starting out or have been married for years, there's always room to grow. Let's do this together. This is the Grace Marriage Podcast.
I want to tell you a story about a couple that showed up at Grace Marriage in 2 cars. And before they knew it, they were leaving in 1. They had to come back later to pick up the other car. Their marriage was in trouble. But because of grace, and not just Grace Marriage, but the grace of God, their marriage is thriving today. And we can't wait for you to hear Melissa's story on this episode of the Grace Marriage Podcast. Along with Brad Rhoads, I'm Rick Dayton. Delighted to have you with us today as we introduce you to Melissa Hagan. Brad, help us to understand. The two of you are on the same side of the table right now, but when you were talking before, you were on that side, she and her husband were on the other side, and you were trying to help them through some tough spots.
Yeah, I remember it vividly like it was yesterday. They were on the other side of my desk, and they were separated, and they were only coming to see me to really check off a box that they weren't really interested in reconciling, especially I think Melissa.
Yeah.
And we were talking, and they both kind of opened up their hearts. And I watched, while we were talking, Melissa just slides her chair over and just lays her hand on John's leg. And I'm like, what's happening here? And it was like, they literally, 3 months of separation. I'll let Melissa tell the story, but 3 months separation, marriage over, literally supernaturally reconciled in front of me. And then literally came in 2 cars, left in 1 car, came back out the car, moved back in the same house, have been together ever since. And one of my favorite people is sitting right beside me, and somebody I'm crazy proud of that really just feels like family to me.
So let's rewind. Take us back. When did you meet your husband? Tell us about the dating story. What made you think this is my Prince Charming forever and ever, amen?
Well, fun fact, we got married 6 months after we started dating. He was 20, I was 21. We had been friends in high school. His best friend was dating my best friend. We never explored anything past that. I had a daughter with my next boyfriend, and then she was a year and a half old, and he and I reconnected, and 6 months later, we were married. I had a kid in it, so I essentially said, age-wise, I'm not very old, but I have a lot at stake here, and I won't run people in and out of her life. So essentially, I'm not going to be your typical 21-year-old. I don't have that to offer. So if you're cool with that, then stick around, and we'll probably have some fun. Well, 6 months later, we got married. Things were great. We ended up getting pregnant with our second daughter almost immediately after. So we got married in the end of November. She was born, or we got pregnant with her at the beginning of January. And I mean, on paper, like everything has been great, our entire marriage. Even whenever we separated, there was nothing big that happened.
But people don't separate if there's nothing wrong.
Correct.
So what was wrong?
So the problem is we had gotten so comfortable living 2 separate lives that whenever in 2017, we bought a house that needed a lot. We gutted it. And so he spent a lot of his time at that house.
You weren't living there? You were living
No,
somewhere else
we
and
were
trying
living,
to get it ready?
Yes.
Yeah, got it.
And so he spent a lot of time there. Well, we had 2 kids, and we had 2 young kids. And so I needed to still take them to fall festivals and trick-or-treating and different things that you do to occupy
them by
kids.
yourself,
Yes.
didn't you?
And so I was doing everything that a single parent would do, as was he. I mean, he was living a single life, but also running himself ragged, working to build this dream home. So naturally, being as naive as I am, I thought, well, this is just temporary. So as soon as we move back into the house, everything will be great. we just go right back to normal. Well, it had been 22 months of us doing the renovations, so it didn't go back as easily as either of us had hoped, I think.
You probably didn't have enough of a relationship before you bought that house to go back to,
Correct.
right? Because you didn't date very long.
Yeah.
Right?
And honestly, at that point, I think we were 3 years in, and we had a relationship, but we went immediately from dating to married to parents, and then immediately into the renovation of this house. And all of these things just happened at once. And before we knew it, there was just, you get really comfortable living on your, like living separately, doing things that you only have to account for yourself, not really for other people, whenever you're apart like that. And so that is when John, I think, really fell into depression, as did I, but in a different way. So that was in 2017. Of course, at that point, we just did life the best we could. I mean, we were actually doing Grace Marriage. We went to all the things we were supposed to do, but John did not go to church with us. And so the only time that he would actually go into the church was for Grace Marriage. And fun fact, enrollment for Grace Marriage is in November. So every year when Brad would do his annual
Recruiting type of
marriage
thing. Yeah, right.
Sunday, and he would bring it up, I would text John immediately after and say, I want that as my anniversary present. So that was
Because you got married in November.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so I always said that that's my anniversary present. So we did that. That's the only time he would do it. Fast forward to 2021. Well, actually before that, my girls and I did family vacations, whether it was with friends or whether it was with my family, sometimes even his family, and he wouldn't go. He didn't get paid vacation at the time. And so it just meant more to him to stay home, keep grinding, doing all of the work. Anyways, so even vacations were separate, and we didn't do those together.
Right.
And then fast forward to 2021, there was no really big boom, I guess.
There wasn't a lightning bolt that hit the house and caught it on fire.
No.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart to think of now, but he even tells me, he's like, I felt so blindsided. Like I literally came home one day and my wife told me my family was like done, that she was done. And I said, I'd said it a lot before in little moments, but not in ways that I think actually, A, that it was clear, or B, that made you think it was enough or as serious as it was.
You say that you're a loud person. I mean, you had admitted when we first met that you're a loud person.
Yes.
And yet you didn't feel like you said it, or he didn't hear that you said it loudly enough for the people in the back.
Yeah.
Right?
So loud people can still be people pleasers.
Yeah.
And so I still wanted I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I mean, now looking back, like, how do you not hurt somebody's feelings to say like you feel lonely and you feel all of these things? When ultimately I hurt his feelings even more by saying like, I'm done and there's nothing you can do to fix this.
So how'd you end up in Brad's office?
Well, so Marilyn was at a birthday party that I was at.
Brad's wife, Marilyn.
Yes. Was at a birthday party that I was at. And I kind of didn't want the scrutiny or the bad image that comes with leaving your husband or, getting a divorce or anything like that.
The stigma of failing.
In church.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
And so I just kind of wanted to soften the blow a little bit. So I told Marilyn something about it. And she was like, well, please let me pray for you. Let me talk to you. Let me pray for you. All of these things. And I was just like, okay. And so out of Christian obligation, I agreed to meet with Brad and Marilyn. I already knew at that point I was done. There was no coming back. It had been this way for so long. I was tired. I was lonely. Like I was just ready to start anew.
And you were going to start by yourself
Yeah.
as far as those conversations, or with John?
No, all the way by myself.
When did John come back into the equation as far as even being willing, and how did you get him to Brad's office?
Bless his heart. He was willing to do anything to save our family. He, at that point, heard everything loud and clear, and nothing meant more to him than to save his family. because none of it was ever intentional. He never meant to hurt me. He never meant to make me feel alone. He never meant for any of those things. So then I'll be honest, I didn't tell him about meeting with Brad and Marilyn for a while because I knew he would be on board. I knew he would be willing to do it. I was the one that didn't really want to do it, and I wanted to see how long I could kick the can down the road. We lived separately for 3 months, and I think it was, I waited for Thanksgiving, our anniversary, Christmas, all of that stuff passed. And then we were going into the new year, and I was like, I can't keep doing this. I've got to make some sort of movement here. And at that point, I was like, okay, I guess let's go see Brad and Marilyn, because I knew that box had to be checked.
Had you seen him at all before that? Mm-mm. Okay, so it wasn't like you had gone in for just individual counseling.
Nope.
You're just saying, New Year, let's one last ditch try?
I wouldn't even say last ditch try. Like, I was all the way checked out. It was more so I needed to check this box to look like I had done my Christian duty, to say that I met with a marriage counselor, that I had done everything. So then I could
really
feel
tried,
okay.
Right? You really
yes.
tried.
So then I could feel okay about walking away. And I love my husband more than life itself, but he is not a vulnerable man. He is not vulnerable. He does not, he doesn't show emotion a whole lot. And so when we walked into Brad's office, I expected it to be very easy for me. I expected it for it to be, look, Brad, don't you see? I'm sitting here trying to tell you all the things that were wrong. He's not giving any emotion. He's not doing anything. And that was not the case. John laid it all out. And in that moment, he got so raw that I was made aware of for the first time things that I didn't know, and things that hurt him, and things that were bothering him, and how deeply he was struggling and trying to keep things together on his own. And to, like Brad said, at that moment when I saw him get that vulnerable and I saw him appear so broken and I didn't know about it, my natural instinct was, I love this man so much. Like, I've got to do whatever I can to fix this.
Were there tears?
Oh, lots. On both ends. Maybe even Brad.
Yeah, it was like something I've really never seen as a pastoral crisis counselor. It was just like separated 3 months, done within 45 minutes, fully reconciled. And it was a beautiful picture. It's like God took Melissa's hard heart and softened it right in front of me, and took a spirit of frustration and angst and anger toward John and literally transformed it toward love toward John. Boom. And it was cool.
You're looking at your husband sitting there being vulnerable. Guy you said doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. You're looking at him cry and cry out. Guy who doesn't do that.
Right.
You had to feel something in places you didn't know were there.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what was your response to that? How did that hit you? Was it like a ton of bricks?
Absolutely. And the fact that, as the old saying goes, actions speak louder than words. That's not something you can fake. That's not something you can put on to show to make things appear that they're going to be better for a little bit. I mean, at this point, he didn't know Brad. He loves Brad today, and he knows Brad today. But in that day, he didn't care who was around. If he had one opportunity to tell his wife how...
It was almost like Brad wasn't there.
Yeah.
Right.
And if he had the opportunity, he was going to take it. And I think he knew as well as I did that was probably going to be our last ditch effort at that point to attempt it. And he wanted to put everything out there.
It's like Brad's favorite musical, Hamilton. You got one shot,
Yeah.
right? It's the only musical Brad likes. So I know it's his favorite.
Naturally.
You lean over, you put your hand, you reach out to him. Was that the first time that you had done that? Was that the first time that you had reached out to him since the separation?
Yeah.
I mean, so it wasn't that you were trying to talk through this in separation. There was a rift. There was a big gap.
I thought I was lonely before when we were married. But No, we were separated, living in different homes. We're not acting as if we were married. And this was the first time that I think in that moment, I was like, I love this man and he is so broken hearted right now. And I want to do whatever I can to fix it, when before I was almost what Brad said, like my heart had been hardened to the fact that, like, I'm sorry your feelings are hurt now, but mine have been hurt for a while. The difference was John never did it intentionally. And at that point, I didn't care if it was intentional.
So you leave this office, you go down to the parking lot, you'd come in 2 cars. What happened in the parking lot? Was there a discussion about, hey, let's go somewhere and talk? What happened there?
I think we left Brad's office holding hands. I think in that moment, whenever he became that vulnerable and I reached out and put my hand towards him, like on his leg, and he put his hand over top of my hand, it was almost in that moment we both said, like, we want the same thing without saying any of it yet. And then we held hands going down the steps. We walked out to our car, and naturally, I think we just both got into the same car. And then we went to the place that he was staying at the time, and we sat and talked for hours.
Kids weren't there?
Nope.
It's just the 2 of you?
Just the 2 of us.
What'd you talk about?
Everything. A lot about what he had just exposed, I guess, of how broken he had felt. And for the first time, I was willing to listen to his side of things, almost, with the intention of not having a guard up of, well, you did this to yourself, or whatever you did was intentional. I was listening to understand, not listening to respond, for the first time in a really long time. And I think that made a difference. But we talked about everything, which I think we even told Brad that day, when we were leaving his office, like, our marriage is over, at least the one we had. Mm-hmm. So at this point, we knew we're going to reconcile this, but what we've done up until this point, like, that really is done.
How long did you talk?
Golly, we probably left his office at like 6, and I think we came back at like midnight to get one of the other cars.
More tears?
Oh, yeah, lots of tears. Good tears.
Was your mascara a mess at this point? I mean, were you in
it's
bad
so sweet
shape?
of you to think that I was wearing mascara.
You weren't even doing that? No.
But it was just, when you do life with someone in a way where you get to see all of their emotions, and then to see it come full circle where you were the person who broke their heart, and then now you get to see it be restored and, like, see this person come back to life. And I'll be honest, I was not a nice person in that season. I was struggling a lot in a lot of ways. And so I was not easy to put up with. But the way that he just, when he got vulnerable, and I think that I showed him compassion in that, and it broke down that wall, the guy's just as vulnerable with me now. And we're, 2.5 years in?
You said you're proud of him today because he talked to you yesterday.
I am. Last night he told me, he was like, hey, I think we feel like we haven't been as connected as we have been in a while. And I was like, yeah, life's been really busy. And we've kind of letting things get a little bit, like, our schedules are crazy right now. And he's like, yeah, that's why I was saying it. And I'm like, I'm so proud of you. Look at you.
Mm-hmm. Has it been easy since then?
No.
Why?
Some days it has, because life doesn't stop just because you're back together. It's just we handle it different. I think before I cared a lot about what people thought from the outside of what my marriage looked like. Like, if John didn't smile in a picture, I was upset with him because I'm like, people are going to think that you're miserable. And I don't care anymore. And so that's been a really it's been a weight lifted to make things a little bit lighter in our situation, because I care about what our home feels like and what the temperature is in there more so than what social media thinks or doesn't think, if John goes on a trip with us or if he smiles in a picture or if he doesn't, because those were the things I was worried about. And when my marriage was coming to an end, none of that mattered.
Were you thinking and worrying about the wrong things?
Always, always. Yes. And now it's so, because he was so vulnerable in that season, I know now things to check up on him on that I didn't before. You lay beside someone every night and they can still be a stranger to you. If they're not letting you in and you're not letting them in, you don't know what keeps them up at night. You don't know what worries them. And that's both sad and scary. And I told him, I never want to be as shocked as I was the night that he got vulnerable in Brad's office, because some of the things that I learned that day I didn't know before. And I never want it to get to that. We should know each other well enough, good, bad, ugly, and in between, that surprises like that don't even exist.
You said John didn't know Brad much at all when y'all came into the office. What would he say about Brad now?
Oh, he loves Brad.
I love
He loves Brad. I think he would tell you, I don't think we could live this life without Brad now, because Brad is a lot of things, but an encourager, and the way he does it without judgment genuinely makes any person feel okay to be vulnerable. It's not lost on me that, and it doesn't feel accidental that John just got vulnerable with Brad almost immediately. Yes, he was trying to save my marriage, but we're human. He was essentially a stranger to him. But Brad has a way of making people feel comfortable to just let them open up. So,
What about you? What do you say about Brad?
well, Brad probably said the nicest thing he's ever said to me a couple of weeks ago. We actually had a moment where I had to make a decision for my marriage in an instant. I wasn't aware of it, and the emotions became really raw, and all of a sudden, and it just so happened that I was at church when it happened, and I immediately called Brad before I even talked to John about it. I immediately called Brad, and of course I get with Brad and I'm bawling, I'm sobbing, and he's like, I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of you. You didn't try to just make everyone else around you happy, try to fit in everything and make it work. You said, if this is going to make my husband uncomfortable, I'm not even running it to him. We're not doing it. End of story. It's not a discussion. It just doesn't happen. And Brad called me later that day and was just checking on me, make sure I was okay. And he said that he was like, I look at you like one of my own, as one of my own daughters. And as a person who grew up without a dad, that's probably the nicest thing anybody's ever said to me. I've never had a male role model to look up to. So that's probably the nicest thing he's ever said.
Thank you, Melissa.
Brad said that he was proud of you. Are you proud of you?
I try to be. It is really hard to not look at that season and think about all the pain that I caused. All of that was on me. John will take ownership of many things. I will tell him it was ultimately me. I did a lot of things in that season I wasn't proud of, a lot of things that just were hurtful. And by nature, I like to think I'm not a mean person. I would do anything for anybody any day. So seeing that I caused so much pain, it's hard to look on that season and think any good came from it. However, I do. I look at that season and I think, wow, I love my marriage now. My marriage John is my best friend. He's fun. I mean, yes, I have like my female best friend, but I have a friendship with John that I didn't used to have.
Are you proud of him?
I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of him.
Why?
Because I may not have had a dad to look up to and a male to look up to and a role model in that capacity, but my girls sure do. And I hope that they find somebody who loves them as much as their dad loves me.
You okay with where you are right now?
Oh, yes. I'm really okay with it after last night whenever John told me he feels like, hey, we probably need to get connected a little bit more. And I'm like, that tells me before that would have sent me into a spiral. I would have thought, oh, no, he thinks something's wrong or it doesn't feel perfect or whatever. And instead it's like, hey, I was feeling it too. I just hadn't said anything yet. And he now knows he's comfortable enough and he's paying enough attention. He can say it and it's never going to be perfect, but it's great.
How many stories like this have you heard?
Just like this, none. I mean, I've seen many stories of God's miraculous power, but every story is different.
Mm-hmm.
Every story is different, but it's so neat because they have such a beautiful family and their kids with mom and dad, and I mean, it's just like Melissa said, it's not perfect. Life isn't easy, but it's. But I know John adores Melissa, and I know Melissa adores John, and I know those kids are growing up in a loving household. And it's like, I'm so proud of both of them. And I just thank God that he's allowed us to be part of their lives.
Well, we sure appreciate you being here. This is one of those stories that people will refer to 100 episodes now. They're going to say, you know what? I remember when Melissa talked about what was going on. I remember what that story was all about, because this is going to have profound impact on people. And thank you for your willingness to open up, to share, to not be so proud to say, you know what? I had it all figured out. Because sometimes it's okay to say, I wasn't okay. And thanks for doing that. We appreciate it. Melissa Hagan sharing her story with us here on the podcast. And we can't wait to hear more stories from you. If there are things that are going on in your marriage, if there's a place where you wish there was more grace in your marriage, in your life, for your spouse, for yourself, reach out to us, because we would love to be able to help you have what Melissa and John have what Brad and Marilyn have what so many other grace couples have. And that's an understanding that it's up and down and relationship is horizontal both. It's a shape of the cross. And the reality is we can't get there without Jesus and God's love first. Thank you for being with us. We'll see you next time. Share, like, follow. Make sure you tell everybody about the podcast. And we will do it again next time right here from Grace Marriage.
Thank you for joining us on the Grace Marriage Podcast. We really hope you're feeling inspired to take intentional steps to grow in your marriage.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us spread the message of grace and reach even more couples.
And if you have a moment, please leave us a review. Your feedback means a lot to us and helps others discover the podcast.
To learn more about how you can grow in your marriage, visit us at gracemarriage.com. Keep building stronger, grace-filled marriages.
We'll see you next week on the Grace Marriage Podcast. Until then, keep growing in grace.